We're going to be making a smaller size, easy to carry, fixed blade knife out of a saw blade. The first thing you need to do is find yourself an old saw blade. Find the shape of a knife that you like. There's a lot of different shapes out there for knives. Draw that shape right onto the face of the saw blade. Find some way to cut it out. An angle grinder, bandsaw, whatever you got. Cut it out, leaving just a little bit of room. That way when you grind it, you can grind it to the exact shape you want. The general shape of the knife is cut out now. Check its feel of it, how it feels in your hand. If there's any modifications you'd like to make to it, do it now. Now it's time to refine the knife shape, and then we'll put a bevel on it. For this, a belt sander would be best. If you don't have that stuff, you might have to just use an old-fashioned file or flap disc. Just slowly start refining the shape, getting all those little burrs off it, shaping it just the way you want it. Make sure you cool it down if you're using a belt sander. You don't want it to anneal and get to be softer metal. Keep dipping it in to cool it down. Just dip it in water. We're making sure that it doesn't anneal. That way we don't have to go through the whole process of heating it up and then quenching it for a nice hard blade. It's already as hard as it needs to be for this one. So just be careful you don't heat it up too much without cooling it down. Now we got to cut out and fix a handle to it. I'm putting holes in my handle. You don't have to. You could just epoxy your handle on, your wood handle on if you want. Trace it out. Both sides. And cut out the shape of the handle. Use a bandsaw or whatever you got. I put 2 holes in my handles just with a drill so I can put pins in mine. It's up to you. It's best to shape the blade as much as you can before you actually put it on. This is 2-part epoxy. Just epoxying both sides of the handle on here. I'll just clamp it down until it sets. The handle is very chunky at this point. Needed to be refined later on. All right, now your handle is affixed, epoxied on. Tape your blade so you don't scratch it up while you're trying to refine your handle. Now we're just going to slowly start refining your handle with whatever tools you got. You might just have sandpaper. You might have a belt sander, whatever you got to start refining the wood handle. Ultimately, you want a wood handle shape that fits your hand nice. The best way to refine your handle once it's somewhat refined, I like to put it into a clamp. Then take some sandpaper, just like I'm doing here, and going up and down on it. Gives it a nice symmetrical finish. Just take different grit, strips of grit. I usually start with something very coarse and work my way up to about maybe a 220 grit. Once the handle is sanded exactly how you want it, can put on some sort of coating on it. I usually just put tung oil on it, but this time I chose to put a little bit of a stain on it, a darker stain handle. I'm going to be making a black sheath out of leather for this, so I wanted a darker handle, but put whatever stain you want. Once your handle is finished, you're going to take the tape off of the blade. It's time to refine and sharpen the blade. This is some polish that I'm polishing it up with. You can use a very fine grit sandpaper and polish at the end. This is 600 grit. You can polish the blade to whatever extent you want. I like just the edge nice and polished. Everything else I leave rough. If you have some sort of sharpening device, sharpening stones, or whatever you use, now's a good time to use that to make a nice fine edge, an ultra sharp edge for this. Give it the old paper test. This old